Hello, Energy Management Business Case students. Dr. Conway here for our first lesson. This afternoon we'll be talking about the course and how it's going to go in our Zoom call, so I won't address that now. I'll be dealing with lesson 1 now, which is why do we need business cases? That's an important consideration. I often say to this group whenever I meet a new class is there's really two aspects to all of these types of professions, and one is the technical knowledge that you've been accumulating through some of your other courses, and the other set of skills that's going to be important for you to rise up through an organization once you get a job is the management aspects and the business planning and strategic business aspects of energy management, which in a lot of programs tends to get underrepresented, but you'll quickly find out once you get into the labor force and you've been there for a couple of years and you've gotten over your initial glee of getting your first job, is that progress in the organization largely depends upon the skills that we're going to be talking about in our course to move up to management and to move to greater opportunities within your profession. So let's today just talk about, in this lecture, talk about lesson 1, why do we need business cases? And then this afternoon in our Zoom call, we'll get into the specifics of our course, okay, and how it's going to roll. Okay, so let's start by talking about why we need a business case, assess when one is typically needed, and identify who we are trying to convince when we do a business case. All right. For most organizations, energy management changes are relatively complex initiatives. And you'll find that out once you get into the field. You'll be surprised as to how many people treat energy as just a bill they pay at the end of the month, and they don't think about it strategically. Of course, the larger organizations that spend enormous amounts of money on energy will be more sensitive to the strategic considerations of energy management, but many of the small and medium-sized enterprises that we will find in Canada will not be all that sensitive to the broader strategic significance of energy management. And that's particularly the case now, right? When we've got a move globally to deal with climate change. And as we see that movement continue to progress, the type of profession that you're heading into will be a profession where change will be commonplace. And the old days of we always got our energy this way, and all we're doing now is making sure we're not stupidly wasting it, and we're sort of watching our budget in terms of our energy management use. We are going to be moving to a career that is actually going to have to be far more strategic now, because all companies are going to be under pressure to transform their energy profile as we go forward in the age of climate change. All right. So we need to understand the costs and benefits of those changes, right? I mean, what needs to happen to make energy management transformation a viable entity, a viable activity, because we're going to be committing significant resources to the proposed change, right? And so decision makers at all levels within government, but also within corporate employers, obviously, are going to want to know that the investments they're making on resources are the right kinds of investments. All right. Now, when an organization faces a major decision, it's important that all relevant information regarding that decision is gathered together in a coherent business case to address some key issues related to all economic decision making. All right. The concepts that I'm interested in and that you should be interested in are concepts of scarcity, opportunity cost, effectiveness, and efficiency. What is scarcity? Well, it doesn't matter how big an organization you are. Bill Gates will have resource scarcity if he tries to accomplish more than the resources he had at his disposal. No organization is completely unlimited in terms of their resources available for action, okay? So resource scarcity means that there are always trade-offs. When you invest resources, that those resources become consumed, and those consumed resources are therefore no longer available for other types of investments. So when any organization is dealing with resource scarcity, which we all are to one degree or another, the types of decisions we make on using scarce resources become critically important, because then those resources cannot be used for other purposes. at least while they're currently being used within an initiative. If they're paid back and you make a profit out of it, then resources accumulate and you can make more and more investments that are better for the organization and more strategic. Opportunity cost is the other concept that we often have to deal with when we're dealing with business cases. And opportunity cost is essentially the amount of benefit that is foregone by choosing one investment over another. For example, if I have two investment opportunities, investment opportunity A and investment opportunity B, and I've got $1 million, and I was to put it into investment opportunity A and it returned a return of 5% for me, but I decided not to invest in opportunity B, but as it turns out, that would have in turn returned a 7% return on an investment. So I made a 2% mistake, and that was my opportunity cost, all right? My opportunity cost of making a bad decision and using scarce resources in ways that were not the highest rate of return, all right? Obviously, any organization, corporate or otherwise, is interested in effectiveness to achieve organizational objectives. And that's why in this course we'll talk a lot about why energy management needs to be linked as closely as possible to organizational objectives in order to be able to accrue the management support you need to bring about change in energy management. Efficiency, there isn't a single organization out there that isn't concerned with efficient application of its scarce resources to an initiative. So efficiency becomes an important consideration of business cases as well. All right. So the key challenge of any business case is to understand the organizational business implications of the proposed decision. How does it relate to the organizational objectives? Can I demonstrate that it will advance the organizational objectives in one of any number of ways? And sometimes within a single organization, energy management may be advancing several organizational objectives or sub-objectives. How am I going to gain support and commitment from senior levels of management of decision making? And those are the key issues that a business case needs to start off with. It is important to realize that a business case, however, is not just return on investment from a financial decision, but it can deal with a whole pile of different objectives or benefits that an organization may achieve, okay? So while we need to itemize costs for sure, we also need to itemize benefits, and those benefits may not always be immediately financial. They might be benefits to the company brand. They might be strategic benefits that make you more competitive vis-a-vis international competitors. Any number of rationales that can be put in place for why energy management might need to be improved, okay? In fact, the business case needs to be able to explain what change is desired, okay? Why? The reasons for the change. Why are these changes necessary? What proposed projects will enable this change? How will these projects be delivered? That speaks to the effectiveness and efficiency aspects we just discussed. At what cost and benefits measured in economic, financial, and business strategic terms? The risks and risk mitigation elements of the proposed decision. All of these become very important considerations that we will look at as we go through the course. Okay, and these are the very questions that any sort of serious business manager is going to be interested in talking about. All right. In fact, the business case is really making 5 subcases. All right. The strategic case. Is there a compelling case for energy management change that fits the strategic objectives of the organization? Yes or no? The economic case. The solution presents a very good use of the scarce resources. Yes or no? Okay. The commercial case, the proposed solution allows other benefits to be accrued to the organization commercially over time. Is it commercially viable, and will it look good to my stakeholders, to my clients, to my customers? Okay, so they're all different aspects of the commercial case. The financial case, the proposed financial investment, is it affordable? All right, can we manage it? Do we have to phase our investment? Can we do it all at once, or is it a longer term project we're dealing with? All these factors we will consider. And the management case, what inputs are required to bring about this change? Do I have the right people? Are they trained properly? Is the project achievable? All right. All of these factors will be talked about in the course as we deal with a business case for energy management. And these subcases are typically discussed through the following types of sections. Typically, there's a background information or project statement type activity. Objectives and how they relate to the corporate objectives will be important. What is the current situation? What is the problem with the current situation? Why do we feel that the change is needed in the current situation? Is it because we see greater costs related to climate change being imposed on oil and gas users? And therefore we want to mitigate those costs by transforming more to renewables or becoming more efficient with oil and gas use, or any number of other factors that may come into play for why you make that strategic decision that we're going to invest in change. We're going to invest in making our organization more competitive. We're going to invest in making our organization greener, or whatever the case, the motivation may be. And what are your recommended solutions for that? Okay, what are your recommended solutions? And typically, as you'll learn about as we go through the course, I offer 3 different scenarios for every problem. A lowest common denominator solution, low-hanging fruit, something the organization can grasp and do readily, and maybe a middle solution, which is a little bit more ambitious. Okay, and then finally what I call the full Monty solution, which is the full sort of initiative that is quite ambitious in terms of achieving the organizational objectives with respect to energy management. And we'll talk about how we set that up in a business case as we go forward, okay? And then one of the key issues of all business cases and getting management to buy into a business case is, how am I going to know? If I give you the money to do what you're suggesting, Mr. or Miss Energy Manager, how am I going to know if my investment was worthwhile? So what are your success criteria? How are you going to measure the success? And these all have to be factors in your business cases as well. And then support required. Okay, who needs to be involved? Your manager asks. The manager certainly wants key strategic people in the organization to be involved and informed, and to be able to have an opportunity to contribute and consult and comment and so on. So support required becomes a very important consideration for a business case as well, because a manager, before they say give you $2 million to do an energy conversion initiative over the next 5 years, then they want to know that key people in their organization have been involved and are engaged and are supportive and have vetted the proposal, understand that it's workable, that they have the people to contribute, that the people have been adequately trained, or they're going to be trained as part of the business case, etc., etc., okay? And risk mitigation. If I'm running a factory, for example, and I have an energy management and their manager, and they're proposing significant changes to my operations in terms of my energy sources, I'm going to want to know that my assembly line is not going to be significantly disrupted. There's not going to be inconsistency in my production processes, or whatever the case may be. All right. So what are the risks, and how will I mitigate them if they arise? Okay. And next steps and timelines. And that would typically be the case if you had a phased business case implementation. What are the timelines? What indicators are we looking for that phase 1 has succeeded and it's time to move on to phase 2, and so on and so forth. All of these factors become very critical to a business case, but we will get into them as we go along in the course, okay, in greater detail. Why are these important? Because, like I say, if you're happy to be the technical person in energy management, which is perfectly fine, of course, there's all kinds of ways to live a life, and it can be fun, okay, to be dealing with the technical aspects with your friends and your colleagues out in the field, or whatever the case may be. But if you want to rise up eventually into a management ranks, then these are the types of skills and strategic thinking that you're going to need to acquire. Now, in this course, because it is only a short course, we are going to be able to give you a taste of what's involved. But as you get into your career, you may follow up with other types of courses on the management side, the project management side, the business management side, the economic analysis side, whatever the case may be. But this course will enable you to participate in dialogue about energy management business cases with other experts, so you can be a team member. It will give you enough knowledge to do that. If you become if you begin to see opportunities to become more into the management side of the organization, then you would probably want to acquire some additional detailed skills in the area. knowledge and skills in the area. But we will certainly give you a good taste of it in this course, and we'll go from there. All right? So let's keep all of that in perspective. And obviously in this afternoon's Zoom call, we'll be able to talk about these things in greater detail, and then we can can carry on with our course. Okay, so 3 o'clock this afternoon is our Zoom call. Be there. It's an important call because I'll be discussing various aspects about how to be successful in this course, and you can raise any questions about this lesson or any questions of any nature related to the course. Okay, and that's what our Zoom calls are going to be about. All right, but we'll discuss that more this afternoon when we discuss on our Zoom call. All right, so looking forward to discussing with everybody, and talk to you again soon. Bye bye now.